America, did you hear what's in this alleged COVID stimulus bill? These people have lost their mind. Take a listen.
It's called the COVID relief bill, but it has almost nothing to do with COVID. This bill contains $85.5 million for assistance to Cambodia, $134 million to Burma, $1.3 billion for Egypt and the Egyptian military, which will go out and buy almost exclusively Russian military equipment, $25 million for democracy and gender programs in Pakistan, $505 million to Belize, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Panama, $40 million for the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., which is not even open for business, $1 billion for the Smithsonian, and an additional $154 million for the National Gallery of Art. Likewise, these facilities are essentially not open. $7 million for reef fish management, $25 million to combat Asian carp, $2.5 million to count the number of amberjack fish in the Gulf of Mexico, a provision to promote the breeding of fish in federal hatcheries, $3 million in poultry production technology, $2 million to research the impact of down trees, $566 million for construction projects at the FBI. The bill also allows stimulus checks for the family members of illegal aliens, allowing them to get up to $1,800 each. This is far more than the Americans are given. Despite all of this wasteful spending and much more, the $900 billion package provides hardworking taxpayers with only $600 each in relief payments. And not enough money is given to small businesses, and in particular restaurants, whose owners have suffered so grievously. They were only given a deduction for others to use in business their restaurant for 2 years. This 2-year period must be withdrawn, which will allow the owners to obtain financing and get their restaurants back in condition. Congress can terminate it at a much later date, but 2 years is not acceptable. It's not enough. Congress found plenty of money for foreign countries, lobbyists, and special interests, while sending the bare minimum to the American people who need it. It wasn't their fault. It was China's fault, not their fault.
What? 8.5 million to Cambodia, 1.3 million to Egypt and its military. Are you serious? 505 million to Belize, Panama, Guatemala, Honduras, and Ecuador. Really? 40 million to the Kennedy Center. Really? 2.5 million to research amberjack fish off the coast of Florida. You're kidding me, right? You're kidding me. This really baked my noodle. They want to, give money to Pakistan for gender programming. 25 million. Excuse me? Meanwhile, they want to also give $1,800 to illegal aliens and only $600 to American citizens. Nothing for small businesses in the means or in the ways of aid. Ladies and gentlemen, if it wasn't evident to you before, it should be now that there has been a certain side of the coin working to tank America for decades, maybe even a century or two, just for the cause of gaining the world. If it was not obvious and evident to you before, it should be obvious and evident to you now. But President Trump, he's not going down without a fight, and he's not walking out the door without a gut punch. He just signed a bill to delist some major Chinese companies from the New York Stock Exchange. It's very interesting. Take a listen.
President Donald Trump signed legislation on December the 18th that could delist some Chinese companies from US stock exchanges, as the new bill requires all foreign companies listed on US exchange must adhere to American auditing standards. The Holding Foreign Companies Accountable Act bars securities of foreign companies from being listed on any US exchange if they have failed to comply with the US Public Accounting Oversight Board's audits for 3 years in a row. It also requires that these companies must disclose whether or not they are owned or controlled by a foreign government. More than 210 China stocks listed in the United States now face the fate of delisting, such as Alibaba, JD, China Mobile, NetEase, and Baidu. In the past, Chinese authorities have repeatedly refused to let overseas regulators inspect Chinese firms, citing national security and privacy reasons. Gong Xiongli, a well-known independent economist in mainland China, believes that it's a historic move for President Trump to pass this bill.
The signing of this bill is one of the biggest measures on China-U.S. trade relations. It means capital from China, from Chinese individuals, or from the Chinese Communist Party organizations can no longer enter the United States unless it is subject to stricter scrutiny. This may be a historic change. This may be the greatest action on U.S.-China relations in more than 40 years.
That's a nice little gut punch possibly walking out the door to the next alleged affirmed administration coming in, don't you think? Never go down without a fight. Never surrender.